Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about critical thinking, which is very, very essential for 21st century people. And we are going to start talking about why it is so much required in this century, why the world is changing, and why such critical thinking skills are most essential in today's world. Not only for the elders, even for the students, even for the children, we need to inculcate all these necessary skills so that they can survive in this competitive world successfully. So let us go into the topic. Let me share my screen. So, critical thinking, that is what is today's topic. And critical thinking is the ability to think clearly, rationally about what to do or what to believe. It includes the ability to engage in reflective and independent thinking. I'm going to talk about thinking in the world of escalating change and complexity because we see a lot of changes happening and we see this 21st century approaching towards an automated world. A lot of routine jobs are getting automated and the people with unique skills will only have a demand and job opportunities. We all know how the world is changing. The world is swiftly changing. With each passing day, the pace of life and change quickens. The pressure to respond intensifies. New global realities are rapidly working their way into the deepest structures of our lives. The socio-economic, cultural, political, and environmental realities are happening. The realities with profound implications for thinking and learning. These realities are becoming increasingly complex. Many represent significant dangers and threats, and they all turn on the powerful dynamic of accelerating change. A complex world of accelerating change. Can we deal with incessant and accelerating change and complexity without revolutioning our thinking? Traditionally, our thinking has been designed for routine, for habit, for automation, and fixed procedure. We don't want to change anything in our routine. Whatever our ancestors did, same thing we are following, but we forget the fact that the world is not the same. It is changing. So we need to change our thinking process. We learned how to do our job and then we used what we learned over and over. But the problems we now face and will increasingly face require a radically different form of thinking. Thinking that is more complex, more adaptable, and more sensitive to divergent points of view. The world in which we now live requires that we continually relearn, that we routinely rethink our decisions, and that we regularly reevaluate the way we work and live. In short, there is a new world facing us, one in which power of the mind to command itself to regularly engage in self-analysis will increasingly determine the quality of our work, the quality of our lives, and perhaps even our environment. From fax machines to email, from complex electronic marketing systems to systems that track us and penetrate our private lives, we are not only providing positive opportunities for people to be more efficient with their time, but also systems that render us vulnerable and wield power over us. On one hand, we have networks where goods, services, and ideas are freely exchanged with individuals the world over. And on the other hand, we face worldwide surveillance systems that render privacy an illusion. How are we going to respond to these revolutionary changes? That is a big challenge. What is one to resist and what is one to support? When is a new system cost effective? Who should control it? For what ends should it be used? Who is to monitor its impact on human lives and well being? How are we to preserve our traditional freedoms at home and abroad? How are we to protect our families and ourselves? How are we preserve our human rights and have lives of autonomy, security, and integrity? What are we willing to give up in the pursuit of greater convenience and ease of communication? And while we ponder the many issues related to technological advancement, we must also juggle and judge work and childcare efficiency and clogged transportation systems, expensive cars and inconvenient office space, increased specialization and increasing obsolescence, increased state power and decreased civil freedoms. We are going to enter or already entered into a threatening world. We are caught up with not only in an increasing swirl of challenges and decisions, but in an increasingly threatening world as well. A world in which we can no longer anticipate the knowledge or data we will need on the job because we can no longer predict the kinds of jobs we will be doing. The jobs are changing, the job roles are changing, the demand is changing, the requirements are changing, the entire world is changing. But we are not changing. A world in which a national mass media gain more and more power over the minds of people. Builders, architects, lawyers, police, federal investigators, prosecutors, social workers, counselors, psychologists, prison guards, and others. A lot of things are there. A world in which privacy is increasingly penetrated by multiple invasive technologies. The face recognition software, DNA testing, email review systems, credit card tracking, and auto tracking systems. A world in which global forces subject to virtually no control make far reaching decisions that deeply impact our lives. A world in which self serving ideologies are advanced in expensive media campaigns. A world in which increasing numbers of people advocate the use of violence as a response to real or perceived injustice. A world in which increasing numbers of people willingly accept significant diminution of individual rights and freedoms in exchange for increasing police and governmental powers of surveillance and detention. A world in which increasing numbers of civilians find themselves trapped in the crossfire of warring groups and ideologies. A world in which both freedom and safety are increasingly diminished for greater and greater numbers of people. The challenge of becoming critical thinkers. So we have seen what are the changes that are coming up in the world and how we have to change our thinking process. So the challenges of becoming critical thinkers. How are we going to become critical thinkers? The question of how to survive in the world is a question that continually transforms yourself. So when you keep asking question, you get a fear, you get a doubt, you get a challenge. How are we going to do that? So whenever that question comes, there will be a continual transformation happening within you. Accelerating change, increasing complexity, and intensifying danger sound the death knell for traditional methods of learning. How can we adapt to reality when reality won't give us the time to master it before it changes. Again and again, in ways we can put partially anticipate. Short term thinking, which leads to quick fix solutions, is largely the rule of the day. Great power is unwielded or is wielded around the world by little minds. Unfortunately, the crucial need for ever new modes of thought to adapt to new problems and situations in new and human ways is ignored by most cultures and most schools. Critical thinking is not a social value in any society. If we are to take up the challenge of becoming critical thinkers, we face a battery of hitherto unanswered questions that define the detailed agenda of this resource. This question centered agenda provides the impetus for reformulating our worldview. Through it, we can appreciate the intellectual work required to change our thinking in foundational ways. Through it, we can grasp the need to regularly re examine the extent of our ignorance. Through it, we can grasp the need for regular exercise of disciplined thinking. Through it, we can understand the long term nature of intellectual development, social change, and personal growth and transformation. So, this is what is the urgent need of becoming a critical thinker. And thank you so much for listening.